Good evening, welcome to the V's channel. Today we're going to be making a bitoque. It's a Portuguese poor man's food. We have our prime sirloin here today. We're going to have our eggs, potatoes, and then we're going to make a little bit of rice to go along with it. It's going to be nice and simple, something families can make, and it's nothing that takes too much money to make. So we're going to start off with salting our steak. Want to make sure that we get nice salt everywhere on it. Next, we're going to add some pepper on top of the steak. Make sure we get pepper everywhere on it, both sides. Flip them over. Going to get some salt on those. Make sure to be a little heavy-handed with the salt because it's going to be the best friend to the steaks. All right, now that we've already salted the steak with the pepper also, we're going to do the rice. Normally I like to do about half a mug for 2 people, so that's about a quarter per person. Tonight we have 3 eating together here tonight, so we're gonna do about almost 3/4 of the mug. We're gonna get that nice and hot. Almost forgot to add the olive oil and actually turn on the pan. Gonna get that nice and hot. Gonna add some olive oil. Once the olive oil is nice and heated, we already chopped up some nice garlic. Gonna put that in there and get the garlic started toasting so we get a nice little flavor. I also personally like to add some cloves to it. I like the flavor of the cloves. I think they add a nice little flavor. Add that into the olive oil also. All right, now that we have the olive oil and the garlic getting a little hot, I'm gonna add that rice in. Gonna put that in. What I like to do is, since we had about 3/4 of the mug, we're gonna add about 1 mug of water. So we like to do about what we have normally and then add another 1/4 of the mug. Add that nice in there. Don't forget to mix. And don't forget to also add some salt in there. It's going to be the most important thing because once we get the water nice and salted, that's going to keep your rice from having a nice flavor at the end. We're going to wait for that to boil. Once that boils, we're going to turn that down to a low simmer, close the lid, and put it for 20 perfect minutes. Hey, so now we're gonna cut the potatoes. So what we're gonna do is get those potatoes, cut them in half, because we're gonna be making nice French fries, nice and easy. Slice them in half just like that. Get the other one, cut that in half. Perfect. Once we get that, we're gonna cut it into nice little slithers. Make sure they're not too thin, because we don't want them to burn in the olive oil. So we're gonna make them nice, decent sizes. We might have to cut some of those again in half because they might be a little too long. Also, what we're gonna do is after they're sitting and they're cut like this, we're gonna make sure to put them in water and add a little bit of salt. The reason for that is we don't want them to turn brown before we add them in the vegetable oil that we had prepared. It's gonna be the most important thing to get, making sure that those fries are nice and crispy when we get them in the olive oil. So all we did with the fries was take them out of the water, dry them nicely with some paper towels, as you can obviously they're around here. And then what we did was add salt and pepper once they were dry. We did also add some paprika. I like the flavor of paprika, it adds a nice little smokiness to it. Get those nice and ready. Make sure that the oil is nice and hot. One of the best ways I like to test the oil, get some water on your fingertips, go up to the oil, see if it starts to get hot, and it does, perfect. And then we know that we're ready for the fries. I'm gonna put the fry in right here. See how it starts to sizzle up? Starts getting nice and hot, just like that, we know it's ready. Gonna grab a nice handful, just like this. And add it in there, nice and slow. Wanna make sure we don't add too much, because the most important thing is we don't wanna get the temperature of the oil to really, really cold, because then the fries won't start burning. All right, now my favorite part, the actual steak cooking. So what we're gonna do, make sure that the pan is nice and hot. I like to put my hands above it. You can feel the heat coming out of the pan. We'll get the steak, lay it right on top there. Perfect. Get another steak, since we are cooking for families, we're making two at once. Get that right there. Gonna wait for those to start cooking. You'll see a little rim coming through the steak halfway through when they actually start cooking. These are pretty thin. They're gonna take about 3 to 5 minutes to make, and just let them sit there. Most important thing about making steak is that we only flip them once. When we start flipping them over and over, they start to get a little hard and a little tough to eat. So we're gonna make sure they sit there nice and hot on medium heat, and then we'll be ready to eat. All right, they've been cooking for about, let's say, 4 minutes. They are pretty thin. So what we're gonna do now, make sure they have that nice color on them on the opposite side, just like that. Flip them over, get them sitting nice there. What I like to do now is grab a little nice clove of garlic, add it to the corner where it's not gonna burn. Get a little bit of butter. I personally like to add a little dollop of butter on top. Add another dollop of butter on top. The reason we do that is to get it nice and moist and make sure that the top doesn't get hard. Just sits nice in there. Fries are getting pretty done. As you can see, they now have that nice golden color on them. Gonna start getting them out, sitting in some paper towel. I'm gonna drain all of that extra oil that the fries added on top of them. Put them all there. Now, all we're gonna do is make sure we wait for that steak to cook all the way through. All right, so now we're gonna make the eggs, because that's gonna be the final part of the bitoque. We have the rice done. We have the steak already done. Yeah, we're cooking the third one because we have 3 people here. We got the fries all done. So now all we're gonna do is get that egg done, because that's all that's left to do the bitoque. We'll get some nice olive oil in there. I personally like to cook olive oil. That's what I always had when I was growing up. Get that egg, get it to the corner, put it right there. Perfect. We're gonna do that with all 3 eggs, and all we're gonna do to season them, salt and pepper, and that's all. All right, well there you have it. That's how you make bitoque. We have our steak, egg, fries, and a little bit of rice. Thank you guys for tuning in for our family meals that we can make every week. It's gonna be nice and simple, and make sure that it's nice and cheap during this quarantine. Have a good night. Thank you for tuning in.